Think we're live, guys. G'day. As always, please give me the first couple of minutes to set up my graphics, share this into the tripod group, and then we'll talk about the round of footy that just was. I know there's still one game to go, guys, but I thought I'll quickly shoehorn this in. Just 15 minutes we'll get in before the Rabbitohs game. In the meantime, just let me know your main takeaway of round 18 or your most memorable moment or fondest moment of round 18, please, guys, and I'll start the pod in the next 90 seconds. Cheers. No one's got a memorable moment so far of round 18. Hopefully a few people have backed a couple of winners. I've done my best. Haven't had a losing tip this round yet. Let's share that in. Is Latrell out? I haven't seen the latest team list, but I'm sure it's on the NRL website. They've got the latest team list an hour before kickoff, and that game's going to kick off in about 12 minutes. Tough one for the Warriors. We'll talk about that, Jeremy. I know you're a proud Kiwi, mate. Latrell out. There you go, Elliot. Dogs will need a bit of luck. Not confident, but I'll touch on that game as well, guys, because I know there's still one to play. Welcome to the Tripod, where we break down the NRL every game, every week from a punting perspective. I'm Jacob Wynn. This is the live round 18 recap. I'll try and keep it brief, guys. I thought I'll shoot this in the regular time of around 6 p.m., even though there is one game to go this week. I think that's still about 10, 15 minutes away, and it's not a hugely exciting game for me. If Dogs do something extremely out of the ordinary and we get a decent game of footy, that's an absolute bonus. I don't have a tip on the line, or I should check that. The Podfather multi does come down to this game. We've got Campbell Graham, which is the tip supplied by Nicole from Sports Tech Daily. And if that does get up, then we're going to profit another 3 units on multi. So, of course, I will be cheering for Campbell Graham. I'll try and get this quick recap of round 18 in even before that. I just want to say, I think this is a really valuable podcast because not all scores are created equal. We had multiple teams this round win by exactly, whether it be 14 or 18 points. Some of them did it really easy, and some of them dead set could have lost with like 20 to go. It was not for sure sewn up who was going to take the 2 points in that one. The crazy new era NRL teams can just score multiple tries in a row, and that happened in a few games, and I feel gutted for people that had 1 to 12 or something like that, or took the underdog with the points in a couple of these games. That really hurt you late, but that's where it goes to show that I come along, I watch every minute of every game, and I try and go beyond the scoreline and tell you what went down in these games because I think we can profit from that. I want to say thank you to everyone who provided feedback in terms of whether you want a longer or shorter pod. That has been overwhelming support to go a little bit longer, and by that people are saying they don't mind a 40-minute Wednesday pod as opposed to 30 minutes. Look, I understand there's also have been a few people that like a shorter pod. I know that's the way of the world. I understand everyone's busy. What I will say is I never aim to hit a certain amount of minutes. I never aim to make a podcast longer. I'm only ever trying to keep it short, keep it sharp. But I guess if people are saying they don't mind it, they don't feel like any of the pods are dragging on, it gives me confidence that, all right, I'm just going to try and provide every bit of insight I can and not try and be too conscious of cutting things out. And it even leaves the scope in there for me to maybe include a guest or just little bits and pieces or bonus segments where I can. You can always just listen to the first 5 minutes if all you want is the best bets, which won 2-0 this week, I should say. And we won the mixed matchup as well. And we're going to win the one multi if we get this final leg as well. So it's been a really good round from a punting perspective. And also I want to thank people who gave support in my search for sponsorship because I want to keep the pod going beyond the 2021 NRL season. and it's not something I'm going to rush into. So if you are somebody who still would have interest in sponsoring the pod, I'm still open to suggestions. It's not about me trying to make money in the next week or the next month or anything like that. So tripodbetting@gmail.com is where you can contact me, and I appreciate the people that have contacted me. When I say I'm not rushing to find a sponsorship, I've been really reluctant to sell any aspect of the pod because my number one goal is grow the audience, not try and make money in the short term. It's all about sustainability. And, that's why we've been able to do the tripod for 7 years, because the goal is never what's going to benefit us in the shorter term. And that's why it kind of blows my mind when people say, suggest that we would ever try and lose a tip. I can guarantee you it's that hard to try and find as many winners as we do. I'm never going to know the result of a match and then toss a loser out there. And that's certainly not going to be sustainable if I'm ever doing anything but my genuine best to find the best results. So with that in mind, we do have one main sponsor for the show, and I very much appreciate them. And we had our winner on their market this week again. The mixed matchup, of course, Penrith 30 beat the Sharks 18. Let's throw to that sponsor now. Quick recap of how the bookies went in round 18.
G'day Tripod family, it's Tristan Merlahan here from Top Sport. G'day Tripod family, it's Tristan Merlahan here from Top Sport. It's been a very interesting
Sorry guys,
week,
is that a technical difficulty?
G'day Tripod
this video,
family,
I'm going to try one more time.
Top Sport. It's been a very interesting week, the week after Origin, where there's a lot of ins and outs. It's always a very difficult weekend at price. We had a couple of very ordinary results, in particular the Melbourne Knights game, where the line moved from 16 to 18.5 in the last half an hour. That takes a lot of money to do that. The Sharks-Raiders game was a good result. There was a big move early for the Raiders, but late the money came back for the Sharks. So that late money is always the most pivotal from our point of view. Some good, interesting games today. The Panthers were well back late. That was a big roller coaster game. There was early money for the Warriors, then Panthers late. That was a very tough result from our point of view. Well done to Jacob getting another mixed matchup up. He's on fire there. So, all right, guys, we're back to normality next week. We're away from the Origin rounds, which is great from our point of view, pricing the game. So, hope everyone back to winner over the weekend, and good luck in the week ahead. Thanks, guys.
Sorry, not sure what happened there. It felt like on my end that the video didn't load up straight away, so I thought we were stuck there. That's what happens with the live video. But we got Tristan touching on there. Not a great round for the bookies. Funny that he said they copped a lot of bets on the Sharks. My best bet was on the Raiders, which ended up being pretty good for us, a good result for us. That was our first winning bet. But let's begin with the first match of the round, and let's try and go rapid fire. But keep your comments coming through, and I'll keep trying to highlight those and respond to those if I can. And please give the video a like as well if you appreciate it. Really, as I say, if I can keep the pod going, I just need that positive interaction and engagement to carry on. Then I know that I have an opportunity to keep growing it and to keep putting in a lot of time and effort, which I do every week. Because just on that note of sponsorship as well, I don't know if many people realize this, but this isn't my only job. I certainly put a full-time effort into the tripod. There's not a day goes by that I'm not putting in a lot of work for the tripod. So I definitely, if people ask me, is it a full-time job? It's full-time hours. Is it a full-time wage? No, I have another job. But for me to carry on, that's where I've got to be able to try and at least keep growing everything that we've built so far for 7 years. So the Titans played the Eels, and I was expecting a better performance from the Titans. They lost 26-8. In fact, they were down 26-0. They were pretty poor, were pretty toothless, especially considering that Mitchell Moses and Junior Paulo didn't even back up for the Eels, whereas the Titans did back up their Origin players. Early in the game, Thompson had a great chance to put the Titans in front. He just missed the grounding on what would have been a special try. And I can't help but kind of reference that after the game, after a really poor performance, Holbrook referenced that missed opportunity by Thompson, not once, not twice, but 3 different times when he wasn't even asked about it. To me, that just reeks of a coach looking for excuses. If the coach cares so much about one moment that was a missed opportunity to put a try on the board, that affects the result so much, it talks about how weak of a team you are. And I spoke on Wednesday about this Titans team being a top 8 caliber. I kind of got to take that back. Maybe they pulled the wool over my eyes with a huge performance down in Canberra 2 weeks ago. They were so bad in this game. They get a couple of backdoor tries. But the Titans, all you need to know about them is they're an under-20s team. They can only play footy when things are going their way. And when they're not, they get trampled. That's what happened here. Dylan Brown was excellent. I think the Eels have gone up a gear since Dylan Brown was here. I can't help but notice, of course, Reid Marnie also returned for the Eels and was great, but you can't help but notice the Mitchell Moses effect, and shout out to Dane Jeffries because he referenced this as well in the game thread. You had New South Wales looking way off the boil in attack on Wednesday with Mitchell Moses there, and then you had Mitchell Moses missing for the Eels on Friday, and they put in one of their best performances of the season. A sin bin to Kevin Proctor didn't help the Titans. They let in 3 tries in that period, but it goes beyond any one excuse. The fact of the matter is, and while Ryan Madison was enormous for the Eels, Fafita was quiet again. I know that the Titans got battered and bruised in this one. They lost their winger, Sammy Fogarty, I think, copped an injury. But end of the day, impressive win by the Eels, very poor by the Titans. Let's move on to Seaeagles Dragons. The pre-game news was quite important. Of course, Turbo was rested. I think we knew that on Wednesday. DCE was then also rested, while Ben Hunt, Tarek Sims backed up. This was an opportunity for the Dragons. After all the turmoil they've been through, could they put up a massive performance here? The line got crunched all the way from above 20 on some bookies to down to plus 7.5 by kickoff. And the Dragons were up for it. It was a back and forth game, anybody's game first half. And in fact, the Dragons took the lead into half time. Second half, I think the Manly pack really stood up, as well as Kieran Foran, kind of a turning back the clock performance for him. I really think the Dragons just missed too many tackles that allowed the Seaeagles to start to gain control and gain ascendancy in the match. And it's a tough one. I think Manly has an underrated forward pack. You know, yes, Jake Trbojevic is out, but these young guns like Paseka, Olika Atu, Schuster was back. It just led Manly to the victory there. And it's a very tough one for the Dragons now, because they've got to cycle out several players. They've still got about 9 players that have to serve a suspension in the next 3 weeks. That was a winnable game, as I say, with Manly without some of their top guns. Dragons can't get there. They still find themselves in 7th, but it's going to be tough sledding for the next month, and that's obviously going to define their season. The only thing the Dragons have going for them is barely anybody below them found a win in round 18 either. Let's move to Saturday, and we'll talk about one of the teams that is still on the outside. I wonder if this was the nail in their coffin, although the fact that it may be a historically low number of points that makes the finals this year, you probably can't even write off the Cowboys, but they did lose at home to the Roosters 34-18. Again, I want to reference what happened pre-game. Teddy was rested. We didn't know that would be the case on Wednesday. So, of course, that was already an advantage to the Cowboys to get that, understanding they lost Valentine Holmes as well. And then the Cowboys shot out to a 12-0 lead. So that's quite that's a bit of deja vu. They shot out 12-0 against Manly after Origin 1. They shot out 12-2 against the Bunnies last week. We know what happened in those games, and it was kind of a similar story in this one, although they got a lot closer in the end. But from 12-0 up, the Cowboys did not even lead at halftime. I think they were down 14-12 at halftime. But this was anybody's game. 15-20 to go. This was 18 all. The Hammer did back up and had some magnificent moments on a sunny afternoon at Country Bank Stadium. He tied the game up at 18 all. And then, in fact, at 18 all, the Cowboys forced a turnover, and Taumalolo has a pass intercepted basically on the goal line. He should not be passing. This is first or second tackle. Cowboys had an opportunity to get their nose in front. That intercept directly led to a set where the Roosters scored a try and got back in front. Then the Cowboys got another opportunity just down 6. Drinkwater actually scores, but it's a double movement. So this is me just trying to illustrate how close this game really was. And the Cowboys dropped their head. A guy like Sam Walker had a really, good afternoon out. And Roosters put on a couple of late tries. And this is one of those games where final margin, Roosters winning by 16, doesn't tell you the full story of how close the Cowboys came. Close, but no cigar. And very similar story in the Raiders Sharks, which was our first best bet of the weekend. We had the Raiders plus 2.5, and the Raiders won the game 34-18, which is the same score that the Roosters won the previous game by. And also, similarly in this game, with 15 to go, you did not know who was going to win. So I was still very nervous, very anxious about our bet, especially considering the circumstances where a couple of key Raiders players got injuries in this game, but they did hang on. Early in the game, the Raiders got a good start, but we've seen that many times throughout 2021. A good start doesn't mean a lot for the Raiders. They're serial chokers, as we know, but an 8-point try, and not a lot in it, but I think just a brush across maybe slightly high in contesting, trying to stop the try, allows the Raiders an 8-point try, and then they get a penalty goal as well. So they're up 10-0 in the first 20 minutes. The funny thing about the way this match was played, with pretty much huge ramifications for the top 8 potentially on the line, I could not believe how many tackles the Sharkies missed all game. The weird thing was the Sharkies missed so many tackles, the Raiders ran all over them, had so many more meters, so many more line breaks. But when it got to the Sharkies' goal line, they instantly became a brick wall. They were really stout. They only conceded 1 try in the first half, and they just kept turning the Raiders away. So even though the Sharkies went on to miss 60 tackles plus in this game, they still could have won with 10 minutes to go. So that's what I found kind of bizarre about this game, that when the Sharks went knocking on the Raiders' door, the Raiders couldn't defend their line. And the Sharkies got a couple of first half tries, actually regained a 12-10 lead before a late penalty had the scores locked at halftime. And even in the second half, again, back and forth, Sharkies had a lead. But in the end, and I should also mention at halftime, Whiten was clearly hurt. He ended up succumbing to a sternum or rib injury with like 20 to go. And he's such an important player for the Raiders. Xavier Savage, I have to shout out. He was injured, which was also very worrying for the Raiders. But before he got the injury, and even a few times after, he came up with fantastic plays. And I want to talk a bit in this recap about all the different superb, talented young players we have coming through the league. Xavier Savage, the speedster who got his second start at fullback for the Raiders and had a huge hand in the go-ahead try that ends up going to an injured Whiten. He was magnificent. They don't win this game without Savage. In the end, Raiders just tough enough, but still anybody's game with probably 7 minutes to go. And then the Raiders scored twice from dropped Sharks balls, directly dropped balls. Raiders picked up and took back to the try line. So the final score does not really represent how close that game was. We'll monitor how serious that Whiten and Savage, he hurt his shoulder as well. We'll monitor those injuries. For the Sharkies, they just never built pressure in this game, and they had errors that hurt themselves as well in attack. I should also shout out Harawira and Tapane, huge games in the forward pack for the Raiders, other big reasons that they won. Let's move to the later game Saturday. We've got to talk about the juggernaut that is the Melbourne Storm. They brushed aside the Knights 48-4. Now, I still remember to this day in 2017 watching how good the Storm were. You got to remember they came off a brutal grand final loss in 2016 where Billy Slater missed the whole year. And then in 2017, Billy Slater was back. And that Melbourne Storm team of 2017, I think, is one of the great teams. And I actually remember making notes in my mobile phone in like mid-year 2017 that I think this Melbourne Storm team is historically great. And here we are again in 2021. And I think we all probably feel the same way, that they're historically great again in this year. And I think that's even more remarkable when you consider that they've lost Greg Inglis, Billy Slater, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith in the last, 6 years. They're like arguably all close to immortals, or certainly kind of Hall of Fame caliber players. Clubs shouldn't be able to rebound that quickly. And then even if you're going to tell me, well, the Storm's still got a lot of talent, it's like Cam Munster missed significant time this year. Ryan Pappenhausen hasn't played since Magic Round. Harry Grant is one of the best, probably 3 hookers in the competition, hasn't played a number of weeks. And yet I posted this on the Tripod page. They have won 14 straight games. They have covered the line 13 out of the last 14, and they have averaged 42 points per game. I don't think people understand how great that is. Like, you would say, oh yeah, of course they've covered 13 out of 14. They've won, they've won 14 straight. Or of course the Melbourne Storm have covered a lot more games than the Bulldogs. But the line is set to produce a 50-50 result. The line is the handicap. It is the great equalizer. Nobody is meant to win a lot more than half the time. You're not really meant to be able to find a team that you can just back every week and cover, because if they are covering the line, the bookies make the line higher. And this is where I said in the comments the Storm make me look bad because they're making it look like all you've got to do is back them every week and jump in the queue and win. And it's not meant to be that easy. These lines are inflated. The bookies are never making it a cheap line to jump on the Storm. And yet they're covering it anyway, and despite key players being out. So that is unreal what we're seeing. This, by far the favourites to win the competition. A couple of teams are still going to have a say in that, but it's scary what they're doing. My question to you guys, when Pappenhausen does come back, Nico Hines has been so good. What position do they play Hines? I'm wondering, do you play Hines right centre? He's got the body that he can defend in the front line. And then do you shift maybe Remus Smith out to the wing? I don't know how else you get all the stars in the field. Of course, otherwise Nico Hines would be an excellent interchange utility, number 14, and cover just about any position in the back line. He can play fullback, obviously, and as well as he can play 5'8". I should mention, just referencing the Knights Storm game, Pearce had a hammy injury in training, so that was a huge loss for them. Saifidi also did not recover from his rib injury. So if I had known no Mitch Pearce, no Daniel Saifidi, I would have definitely considered playing the Storm. But I actually thought the Knights were going to bring quite a strong team into this one. Ponga played but got injured in the first half and didn't come back out second half. But that's not an excuse for the Knights because they were down 30-0 at halftime. In fact, just speaking of halftime, the Storm have won their last 3 first halves 100-0. How ridiculous is that? And I do worry, I talked coming into this round, teams like the Knights and the Titans have strong rosters that can maybe make a surge towards the top 8. Well, both those teams took massive setbacks, both getting flogged and also the Knights copping those injuries as well. Now it's very worrying. I just don't know who is going to put their hand up and make the top 8. We should just go ahead with the top 6 at this point. Really, you tell me who else deserves to make the finals at this point. What a crazy year it's been. Let's move to Sunday, where we had another best bet on the Panthers. And this was one of those games where I really don't think you had to sweat. Now, I don't want to take a heap of credit with this Panthers best bet. We had -5.5, even said play -6, -6.5. And this line closed -10. But the Warriors lost RTS, Wade Egan, Rocco Berry, and Toho Harris all to first half injuries. So really, considering all that, it was an incredibly brave effort by the Warriors to hang as close as they did. Even the first kick of the game was a Townsend kick, charge down, and a Bill Kickout return try. So nothing went the Warriors' way. So honestly, I think you've just got to take your hat off to how brave the Warriors were. I know you don't get any kind of moral victories in the NRL, but this was the kind of game that a lot of weaker teams would have lost by 30 or 40 easily. Panthers didn't do a lot wrong, but they didn't have to do a lot. They were strong and they comfortably won. We also had Brian To'o crossing for a try, which was my tip in the Podfather multi, which is still alive, as I say, leads into Campbell Graham, and I'm aware that Rabbitohs-Bulldogs game has started. So we'll just wrap it here with the Tigers beating the Broncos 42-24. And look, as much as Katoni Staggs was very at his influential best and was excellent today, and the Broncos pretty much held the lead for the first hour of the match and had that typical Broncos arrogance about them, that they just feel confident, they feel like they're top shit when really they're not. But sometimes that arrogance about Brisbane, the way they play when the crowd's behind them, works in their favour. And this looked like a game where that was going to lead them to victory. But that arrogance works against them as well when things go against them and they drop their heads and they think, why is this happening to me? And we've seen Brisbane drop their bundles so many times this year and copped a lot of, really embarrassing score lines. And to let the West Tigers put 42 on them, and we know Wests are a very limited team, it's another really embarrassing scoreline. It's a great result for all of those following, and give a like if you're on the 15-1 season multi, because now the Tigers are up to 6 wins. We just need over 7.5. I thought Dane Laurie was excellent. Adam Dewey, excellent as well. And Luciano Leilua, fantastic back rower there. The funny thing about the Tigers, as bad as they've been all year and, getting embarrassed in recent weeks, they're only 2 points outside the top 8 as well. I just keep referencing how bizarre the ladder is this season. And, of course, I can see the score now. We're like 8 minutes into Rabbitohs Bulldogs. Nobody has scored a try yet. I find it hard to believe it'll be anything but a comfortable Rabbitohs win. I didn't have a tip on the game, but the Podfather is relying on Campbell Graham scoring a try, so I'll sign off now and we'll cheer for that, and I'll be back on Wednesday, 5:45 p.m. on YouTube, premiere for the round 19 preview. Thank you very much for tuning in and supporting. Good luck if you've got anything riding in this final game. As always, gamble responsibly and Lego.